Okay, all right, we're back.
We're back.
So this one, we came up with another idea. We're going to do something different now, which is 12-inch singles in this episode.
We did an episode with 45s.
Yeah.
Which we explained the difference between a 33 and a third RPM, 33 RPM versus 45. Excuse me. But these are 12-inch signals. Mm-hmm. Which explain what the difference is.
So some of them, as I recall, would play at 45. Mm-hmm. But what they would do is they'd just make it like a full-size album. So it had the small hole in the middle like a regular album. But these things would usually have 2 or 3 songs on them. And in some cases, what they would do is they'd have extended versions of a song. So
True.
I have some 12-inch singles from like The Cult, for example. I think one of them we're going to do today, but I have one that has She Sells Sanctuary, 12-inch single, and where they techno the whole thing, and it's like 12 minutes long, and so that's what would be on a lot of these 12-inch singles. And then they'd have new songs they didn't have before, but it's kind of like a miniature album release.
Sure.
Weirdly.
Well, I mean, different than an EP.
Yeah, right? I guess so. I mean, it was a similar idea.
But I think that's
but it was usually songs off an album that already existed.
Right. I mean, that's kind of how I remember them coming out, is it was more the dance, like the dance genre would always, you'd have a single and then the 12-inch single, you know, where you'd have Madonna's.
That became really popular, yeah.
Or an extended dance remix. I think that's where I kind of was became more familiar with what's the difference between a 12-inch single and the size, obviously, and often it had some sort of new remix.
Mm-hmm. A lot of things, where if it wasn't a dance thing, it would just be a remixed version of a song, or remastered or something like that.
Some sort of cool thing, or it even sounded different, right? Had more a techno beat or something mixed in. Which made it
I
cool.
have a 12-inch single. I think we did it once, that Motley Crue Helter Skelter one, and they had some of the original mixes of Livewire, I think, and some other things like that. And so they would use these as kind of a novelty thing in many cases, and they charge more than a regular single. I mean, so I think the 45s were like at the time $1.99 or something, but these things were not usually. I don't think they were the price of a full size album, but they were close.
They were $6.99.
They were
$8.99 for the album.
$5.99, $6.99, and then something like that.
The sucker collectors are like I gotta have that.
Like me,
Robert John's gonna get that.
Yes,
that
would happen. So
where are we at?
Let's bust these out. We've got 3 of them we're going to look at.
We're gonna
we should talk about where we are.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I'm so close. We didn't even do it. So we're in the Utah South Studios. Thanks for watching. We're in the Utah South Studios in St. George, Utah.
Yes.
And I'm Robert John Hadfield.
I'm Gary Casella.
And we forgot that in the last thing we recorded completely.
It's all right.
So, and
who pays the bills?
And Who Pays the Bills is a company called Audio Mover. Audio Mover is the company that takes your old audio and videotapes and turns them into digital.
That's right. Thanks, Audio Mover.
Yeah, and so as we do this today, we notice as we're going through and commenting, a lot of these shows, we don't do any prep. We just pull the records out and start talking. And then we get these, wait a minute, what was that? And if we ever make mistakes or you notice something, or even if it's like, it's not necessarily
old
mistakes, but it's old man, like, what was his
Brain
name?
fart.
Because earlier I was Adrian Smith and Steve Harris. No. Steve Harris is the bassist.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing it again.
We're doing air. But this is where you come in.
You can come in.
This is where you come in.
Put that name in there.
This is where you come in.
Yeah. And get it.
You too.
Correct us. Yeah. And so we have Kevin here with us, who works in the studio, and he's helping us get all this stuff together.
He's just shaking his head.
So,
what
like these old guys. So, yeah, exactly. Kevin's a super talented videographer, and he's awesome. So we appreciate him being here. But today he's running the cameras, making sure it keeps going, and carrying our 12-inch singles in for us. So first one we're going to look at, we've actually talked about this band before, but this is a unique 12-inch single because it's one of their songs off of Electric.
Yep.
And you can see that it has that electric look.
Yep.
It has the same logo, the whole thing. But this is one of their real AC/DC sounding tunes. Anyway, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, again, we talk about marketing and getting your extra dollar. I think the Cult, for in this era time frame off of electric. Their marketing, we talked about that when we did that album, and even on this 12-inch single, which I haven't seen this, is amazing. First of all, it looks super cool. Like, well done. I mean, from the logo to just the flowers and the skull. I mean, just the dichotomy there.
Bullets in here?
I can't even tell. I can't see that close, bro.
Well, yeah, because they had, it's bullets.
I mean, right? I mean, how?
Bullets and gun pieces, it looks like.
And then let's put some roses in there.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's cool because it is, what is it? Angels and Outlaws, satin and lace. It's like the opposites, right? So they're playing on that.
Yeah.
I'm no marketing person, but this is way better than a lot of the other stuff that we've come across on some albums, which, by the way, if you have a crazy album cover that you think's absolutely terrible, chime in.
We're going to do one of those where, cool, what were you thinking album covers?
Right? I mean, do you think this is cool or not? Let us know.
Yeah. Yeah, this stuff at this time was pretty awesome. And you can actually see, it's kind of neat because you can see this had to be clearly hand-drawn.
I don't know.
I mean, because you can look at you can almost see the pencil markings or whatever they were using to get the logo the way it looks.
It almost looks like
pretty
bones,
awesome. Yeah, I love this. And the song was so cool. It was a great tune. And I think this one had, so Love Removal Machine. So here you go, 12-inch single. Oh, and then they had the Cult, these like beer cans or something that they were doing at the time too. So they had Love Removal Machine, which is on side A, and they had the LP version. So this is the one that just came straight off the album.
Right, which is great.
Wolfchild's Blues, which is not on an album. So this is an example of they had.
Get it.
So they had these two songs on here. So the second track on side A was a totally unreleased tune, and when you listen to it, I'm pretty sure it was this album. It's kind of sounds like this live recording. It's a very interesting thing that they did.
So you think it was like a throwaway song?
Hang on a second. Wolfchild Blues recorded live in the studio New Year's Eve 1986. I remember reading that.
Hey,
they were just jamming. Hit record, threw it on here. Just totally, and when you listen to it, it's very raw sounding like that. It's really awesome.
It's like, here you go. Boom.
Yeah. And then they did Love Removal Machine extended version
like we were talking about. Yeah.
Where they add something to it and make another version of a song. And 12-inch singles are very popular for that, where they'd have new versions. Like a 45 would usually have the song from the album.
Yeah. But you didn't have the room.
A song really, you know what those 45s were used for? Not just to sell to us, but they were used in radio stations. So they'd know this is the song.
Right.
And the reason is, sometimes on those 45s, they'd even have a slightly shorter version of the song on the 45 because for that reason, to get it down into radio length.
I never thought of that. I was thinking, you remember like the jukebox you'd hit and the machine would actually go around, grab the record, put it down, and the needle would go down. Like, dude, that'd be cool to have.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I saw one on Pawn Stars not long ago where they remade the thing and put it together. I think it was Pawn Stars. So this one's interesting because the hole's in the top that it comes out of here instead of the side.
That is
This one just has plastic inside here, nothing super unusual. But you can see right here, look, and it's a 45. So it spins at 45 instead of 33 and a third. Cult, same.
But it's your LP size.
But it's your LP size. Yeah, and so then you can see the first song and then the second track right there, and it's on Sire Records. So this was, once again, it was kind of a
cool
little bit of it.
It was
produced by Rick Rubin, who was a real famous rock, producer.
And did
very successful.
He did Beastie Boys, right?
I don't. You know what? I can't remember if he did them or not.
And
but it wouldn't surprise me.
And Rick Rubin's
Rick Rubin's big name.
Big name.
So anyway, there's Cult 12-inch single for Love Removal Machine. I actually have other 12-inch singles by them, but this is
song.
Great. It was great, and it had that AC/DC.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, Love Removal, and you'll also this song, the chord progression, as I recall, is identical to She Sells Sanctuary. Might be in a different key, but it's the same thing.
Probably. That's good.
It's the same progression. You could sing one song over the other one, and it would work. So they found that little thing and they beat it to death on a few. I think they had a few other songs that had this similar chord progressions.
You can do like a medley.
Yeah, and it's right. Yeah, with the same progression, and it's a very simplistic thing. Like if I can remember, it would go. The pattern would be like D to C to G. So you D C G D. I'm not singing the right note, of course, but that's the progression. And they'd have other songs that were built on that same very simplistic riff, but this one was too.
It's rock, man.
So anyway, so there you go. Love Removal Machine.
12-inch single.
12-inch single.
45.
Let's get the next one out here.
It would sound very weird at 33.
This is so awesome. Okay. So this is a 12-inch single that came from Robert Plant's second solo album. Now, the song was In the Mood. I'm in the mood for a melody. I'm in the mood for a melody. I'm in the mood. And the irony of this is I'm not actually singing a melody. It's just one single note, but it's still... Anyway. But it was a great song. It's funny. We had somebody in the studio yesterday that saw all of the records. Mm-hmm. And she saw that I have that Led Zeppelin thing on the wall. And she says, Led Zeppelin, I love Led Zeppelin. And she goes, but you know what I really loved was Robert Plant's solo stuff. And I went, what? Yes, exactly. And she goes, because he got really more mellow and melodic in that stuff. And I said, and she actually mentioned this song. This was yesterday.
Oh.
And I go, you got to be kidding me. Don't get me wrong. I like this stuff. But it was so funny to hear somebody make that comment that knew him.
His place in rock. And she's thinking, oh, this is better.
Yeah, which is pretty weird.
It is a weird.
It's okay.
Hey,
it's Robert Plant.
They say, opinions are like what? You can fill in the blank. But everybody's got one, and hey, she's entitled to that. I remember hearing this on the radio, and I'm thinking, come on, man. You're Robert freaking Plant. You could sing.
You can do it.
You can sing anything you want. I mean, I know that he's doing the stuff with Alison Krauss and stuff now. It's totally different. But yeah, you made your mark on the world. You can do whatever you want. You have earned that right, Robert.
Yeah. He did some interesting things with this.
But I was not a fan of this, even though it is kind of cool, but it's not up my alley.
So, In the Mood was a good song. I think was Big Log on this one, which is a good song. He did something interesting on here that was reminiscent of Led Zeppelin, though, and it was these characters. Because as I recall, each one of these characters represented a band member on this album. Because you had I think one of them was Robbie Blunt. I think it was because one of these guys isn't accounted for, but as I recall, if you go back to the actual album, somehow these characters. But here is the thing that some people don't know. We talked about this on another album, but there he is, Phil Collins.
All right,
Phil Collins playing drums on Robert Plant's solo album. Played on his first two solo albums
as a drummer because he's a kick-ass drummer.
As the drummer, I saw this tour. I saw Robert Plant on this tour, and sitting behind the drum set was Phil Collins. And I don't think that there was any more mention other than, hey, there's Phil Collins back there. Yeah. That's it.
No.
There was no...
Hey, there's Susu Studio.
Yeah, none of that. And we're not playing any of your music. You stay back there on the drums.
Nothing.
None of that.
You stay back there.
And not only that, we're not playing any Led Zeppelin music. This is about me.
Yeah, Robert Plant.
Yeah. And he didn't play any Zeppelin music. And you know what? It was a filled arena, and that's okay because it's Robert. He could sit there and just sit there, and we'd all be okay with it because it's Robert Plant.
You're paying for an icon.
Yeah. Because at that point, it's like legend guy. Right. And whatever. You're Robert Plant.
That's okay.
We're good.
So
the interesting thing about this single, too, is that...
I can't...
That
looks like John Oates. That mustache.
It really does look. I'm Oates. Do you ever see that Saturday Night Live skit? Private eyes, they're watching you. Oh no. What's the one where he goes?
Yeah, that's the one. Private eyes, I'm watching
you. No, that's
you.
right. And then he goes. That was me. I'm Oates. Anyway, you got to see it. It's a great Saturday Night Live skit, but
and
it's
his
so
stash.
funny.
Poor guys had to live that time.
But
I'm not going to lie.
He was actually, I didn't realize how important he was in Hall & Oates, like songwriting.
Sure.
He was actually really
important.
Because I always think it was Hall and Oates. Oates. Yeah. I didn't think much. And then later you start watching some interviews with Oates and you're like, is it John Oates?
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, this guy was really important. And it was always Daryl.
A ton of hits. Nothing against, I know we're talking 12-inch singles, but we're going down the rabbit hole.
We're not even talking about them anymore.
John Oates looks like this guy. Who is?
Jess Woodruff.
Yeah. Where are you, Jeff Woodruff, right now? Or Jess?
Yeah.
Dude, seriously?
Anyway, Robbie Blunt, I think, was a guitar player.
Okay.
And he was Robert's right-hand man, I think, on a lot of this stuff. But then, of course, Phil Collins. Once again.
That is really cool.
Iconic. But interestingly, this 12-inch single.
Some guy in the Navy.
Yeah. There's a picture. Anyway.
Just weird. 80s, 90s type stuff. This is 80s.
So this is flimsy. Like, this is almost like the inside cover.
Yeah.
Like the last one, the Cult one, was like full on cardboard, where some of these 12-inch singles, they were more like this. And I'll just bust this one out.
I remember
this is interesting, too, on the inside, because he, once again, had those 4 symbols. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that these 4 symbols represented 4 of those guys.
So you got Phil Collins with Stick. I don't know, this guy looking down. This must be for John Oates. Right there.
In the mood, Plant Martinez. I'm Oates. You got to look up that clip, man. It's hilarious. So I don't see anything interesting here. But anyway, both sides, they just had the
it's cool.
Those characters.
Dude, I mean.
So, and I guess these were Pledge Pin and that other one were recorded. It says recorded live in Dallas, Texas. So that was the other thing. They put a couple of different things on here.
Yeah,
We'll get some
cool
live
stuff.
songs. So anyway, there's Robert Plant, 12-inch single for In the Mood.
For a melody, I'm in the mood.
Nice. So, all right, Kevin, let's get that last one in here. This one I love. This one I love, and I'm going to show you why in a second. This was the Deep Purple comeback. This is where Ian Gillan. That's Ian Pace. Ian Gillan. I think this was his first song back with the band. Coverdale was gone, off doing Whitesnake now.
Sure.
And you had the original, kind of the original lineup. The original lineup didn't actually have him.
Right.
It was the song Hush, which was even before him, was Deep Purple, but that did not have.
But this is
Ian
the one
Gillan.
that came out in like the 80s.
So you had Roger Glover was bass player, producer. Yep. He's back in the band as the bass player because they had, I can't think of his name. I'll think of it in a minute. That was playing bass. Had a great singing voice, and he's still really well known now. Ian Pace is a drummer, of course. And then
Richie Blackmore, John Lord
on organ. John Lord always had that big mustache.
Crazy stash.
Yeah, and he was so cool. And I saw them on this tour. Jufria opened up.
Right.
Jufria opened up for them. First time I'd ever seen John Lord, him playing that B3 was a sight, man, because he had that organ and he would literally tip the thing over. He was pushing that thing around. It was so awesome, man. It was so cool. Anyway, so this song though, Perfect Strangers, it had that ga 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 ga. It was a great tune. Anyway, this is one of the things that made it interesting. Deep Purple Family Tree, and I'll show you that in a second. So, new track. This is a new song, Son of Alaric. I don't think it was a good song, as I recall.
No.
But anyway, Perfect Strangers, taken from the album. But the thing that made this great, and here's a pretty cool picture of the band.
Yeah, I like it.
He always had that long monster hair.
Yeah.
And he had that interesting look when he'd stand on because Ian Gillan didn't do much on stage.
No.
He mostly just stood there he'd stand there and his hair was in his face, and he'd just kind of stand there.
Right.
But what an iconic singer, though, man. I mean, it's like everybody looks back to him as being one of the most important rock singers ever.
He's got a great voice,
because he had something. And we talked about him before on the Jesus Christ Superstar. He was the original Jesus Christ. And because he had that screamy thing that he could do that was so unique. But here's what made this 12-inch single so fascinating to me. And I studied this thing. I don't know if the camera will be able to get this whole thing in here. It was this.
Whoa.
Somebody took the time to do this. This, at the time, and it's actually, you could even expand out on it now. Let's see if you can get this, if this whole thing's in the camera. Yeah, you can see the
Yeah, that's really cool.
This is the Deep Purple family
tree.
And it, so, I mean, look who you can start seeing on here. Elf.
The band.
Because you start tying all these different people. Because you take Richie Blackmore, he goes off to Rainbow. Now you have a connection with Dio, which then connects you to Elf.
It's all the nerdy stuff that we know, that people put on one chart that you can go follow through. It's your genealogy.
So you have
Deep Purple right here.
version 1, and then it just starts taking you. Like, where did Deep Purple come from? The band's there. And then it leads to Deep Purple Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV. Then it jumps off into Rainbow, Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV, and it ties all these Rainbow Six, all these different things together.
And this was just part of the marketing for this particular
this single. This was in there, and that was it, man. Because
obviously there was a gap from the Deep Purple of the 70s, right? And Smoke on the Water and all that, to this is like a decade later.
Yeah, easily. Because I think this was 86 or 87
I think it was
when
like
this came out.
junior, senior year for us, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking this was probably a good thing because we're now, in 86, 87, it's like Deep Purple. Those has-beens or whatever. Because this was like a comeback album when this came out. And they put a lot of money and toured and stuff like behind it. So
yeah, and Ian Gillan had actually been in Black Sabbath in between this stuff too. There it is, Black Sabbath. Yeah, because he had actually gone and played on the album Born Again.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
So yeah. Cool. Anyway, I loved this. This to me was so important.
Nobody quiz us on this. Yeah. I'm not to that level. I'm just saying.
Even Michael Schenker Group. I mean, it's so fascinating.
Because you have so many different people, right? Yeah. That
I love
because they're a 5-piece, right? And so 5 different people going different ways. Family tree. That's pretty cool because you can kind of connect all these different pieces and bands that you can kind of geek out on.
Yeah, and Roger Glover was so prolific, not just as a bass player, but then he ended up going on and produce. I think he even produced Judas Priest at one point. Roger Glover did one of their albums, or started to produce one of their albums. So yeah. Anyway, so it's just so I love this stuff so much. Once again, just because of all the weird, nerdy information.
Sure. No, this is
that connects all this stuff together.
This is what makes a 12-inch single kind of like,
and that's what
this is pretty cool, right?
So this one also had kind of the flimsy paper cover, but it did have this really unique edition in there. And so
maybe to keep the cost down, maybe go with the paper.
Yeah, and also, they didn't, as I recall, most of these 12-inch singles did not have
a sleeve.
Because this was the sleeve. Kind of like a 45.
Yeah.
So anyway, cool. those are 3 really cool 12-inch singles that are on the the hard rock spectrum, and this was a great song. This is a great. There was 2. Knocking on Your Back Door was the other hit off of the album Perfect Strangers, and wasn't that it?
No,
Sweet Nancy was a fancy to get into a pantry to keep the aristocracy. Yeah, that was on this album. I think that was, and it was called.
I'm not sure, man.
Knocking on at your back door. Pretty sure that was on Perfect Strangers.
That just don't sound right.
True. It doesn't.
All right.
Anyway, there you go.
All right.
Hey, so follow us. Like this video. Please comment.
Yeah, is there a 12-inch single that you remember being like, whoa, this isn't a 45? What's up with this?
And we can see if we can track it down, and because we've done that before with some of these things. People make suggestions, and we'll look for it and see if we can get it on the show. Anyway, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, make any comments. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this stuff.
Thanks for following us. Yeah. We appreciate that a lot. Because without you, you're just chiming in. Or you can chime in and...
Without you, we're just a couple of hacks sitting here talking to ourselves. Actually, either way, we're really just a couple of losers sitting here, old men talking about old records.
Dude, come on, don't put us down. We're not losers, man. We're cool dudes that are just talking stuff.
I know. It's fun.
What's funny is that there's a lot of people out there that do like this stuff. And, I mean, we just happen to know because we were so immersed in it.
Yeah.
That we are kind of loser.
And the little hoarder in me has never thrown the stuff away. So we still have it.
Yeah.
So we can talk about it.
It's good stuff, man.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. Take care. 3 Random Records is a production of Thick and Mystic Media and is recorded in Utah South Studios, located in St. George, Utah. Don't forget to visit audiomover.com to convert your old audio and videotapes to digital.